In this lecture, we'll be discussing the elements of life, love, and karma. So, throughout this lecture, we'll be discussing not only the definition of karma, what karma actually means, but also how karma is initiated and transmitted into the world, creating this cycle of life, death, and rebirth. And in doing so, we'll also discuss how karma can then impact the next life and the different realms of lives that go on within that. So let's go ahead and begin by talking about the role of karma and rebirth. So karma is, in essence, will. It's the good and bad willful intentions that motivate us from doing good or bad actions that result in karmic fruition. And one little quote here from the Buddha here says that it is will, cetana, O monks, that I call karma. For having willed, one acts through body, speech, or mind. So you can have mental karma just by thinking about it. Not just what you do, but even in your thoughts. That's what actually is coming through. Now, accidental or unintentional good or bad actions do not necessarily result in karma. These are just nominal actions, and they don't really impact the level of karma. So you can't really fall into karma. It just, you have to have a willful intent to do something either beneficial or unbeneficial in the world. So all unintentional or all intentional, moral or immoral acts condition or mold a sense of consciousness, so that in doing so, one conditions one's life in the future, and then ultimately one's rebirth. So what you consciously put out there in the world, good or bad, has consequences as it unfolds not only in your life, but in the next life. A lot of times people see this on a regular basis. So what you do has consequences, good or bad. And so if you want to put out good actions, good vibes, good karma, then you could potentially get that back in the later life or in this life. So intentional actions condition the life in the future and ultimately in rebirth. But consciousness, like a flame in this life, lights the flame in the next life. So good and bad rebirths are not simply rewards or punishments, so it shouldn't be thought of that way. But these are just resulting effects of one's conscious character molded by the lives of good and bad actions that reflect how one ultimately chooses to act and live. So karma and rebirth should not be seen as a type of reward or punishment system. Action is just action. So what you put out there is what you inevitably get back. It's not a reward, it's not a punishment. It's just the way life is. So what then constitutes good and bad actions in this world, or otherwise known as wholesome acts and unwholesome acts? Well, wholesome acts, otherwise known as kusala, are actions that promote a positive condition of mind and body for the actor and for those who are affected by that action. So that's more of a wholesome action. Unwholesome action is one that produces harmful effects and not conducive to attaining nirvana. So you look at unwholesome actions as ways of harming people and thereby inhibiting your ability to reach nirvana, and wholesome actions are things that benefit others and yourself and are also conducive for gaining the path to enlightenment or gaining or attaining nirvana. Now, the root causes of unwholesome actions, as we discussed earlier, are greed, hate, and delusion. So greed allows one's actions to be rooted in the longing for something or someone, or in something that has a strong desires like avarice or lust. This can also include clinging to certain dogmatic views that don't allow for the uplifting of yourself or for others. Hatred involves not only irritation with something or someone, or also strong feelings of aversion, anger, or even wrath. So hate, it's pretty logical here. What makes you angry in the world, and holding on to that anger. Delusion is pursuing actions that result in an active distortion of or hiding from the truth. So, in certain matters of, or from being unclear of the full doubts of all things, one should make an effort to understand how things operate and have a better or clearer picture of all angles, rather than just sticking to one narrow vantage point or one's own personal perspective. It's really important to expand upon that and get a bigger picture, a more inclusive picture of all the parts that are at play. Now, there are opposite actions associated with. You have non-greed, which is more positive intentions or generosity or renunciation for the benefit of others. You also have non-hate, which is more friendliness, patience, loving kindness, and compassion for others. And then on the other side of that is non-delusion. This is where you have more clarity of mind and insight into ultimate reality. So if you do these things, you can get back on track with the more wholesome acts as opposed to the unwholesome acts. So good or bad karma, otherwise I like to also refer to it as wholesome or unwholesome karma, result from more positive and negative emotions that one has. And these emotions determines one's rebirth in the cycle of samsara. And as I mentioned before, that samsara is that cycle of life, death, and rebirth. So there are three realms in which rebirth can take place. The first realm is the realm of sense desires, otherwise known as karma loka. Then you have the realm of form, which is rupa loka. And then you also have the formless realm, arupa loka. And we'll get into those briefly. The realm of sense desire can be broken up into 5 or sometimes even 6 different levels. And so within this sense desire phase, you've got the hell realms, the realms of hungry ghosts, the realms of animals, the realms of humans, and the realms of lower gods, also known as divas. Not just Christina Aguilera and all that. These are the divas that we're talking about within the Hindu Buddhist perspective here. So that 6th one that I didn't mention in these first 5 here, it's often included, is known as the Asura realm. These are the demigods. These demigods are in the realm of anger, jealousy, and constant war. These are semi-blessed beings that have certain powerful or fierce or even quarrelsome qualities to them. But like humans, they are also partly good and partly evil. Now, in the next couple of slides, I'm going to break down each one of these realms, starting off with the hell realm. So this notion of hell is not necessarily confined to just the Abrahamic religions. This notion where actions have consequences in the next life is something that is found within many different religions, including within Buddhism. So let's first talk about the notion of hell realms. And I love these images. They're kind of grotesque and morbid, but I love using these images. These are from Japanese artists that are very poignantly indicating the notion that hell has within the realm of samsara. So you can see that these people who are in hell are just being brutalized. You see the lake of fire and lava and bodies burning and dogs devouring some of these corpses for eternity, or to a certain extent eternity. But in hell, everything is repulsive. This is kind of like the just desserts, if you will, for certain all the unwholesome actions you do in the previous life will result in this next realm of life. It's a constant state of mental and physical pain. But there is a little spout of hope. Since no rebirth is eternal, then this realm is not necessarily going to last forever. When the karma that has brought one into this state is then used up, one is then able to be reborn into another realm. So picture the notion of karma as like a level that can be, or a substance that can be on you or in you that gives you a certain level of wholesome or unwholesome karma, and then as that is being used up, it can eventually diminish or increase depending on what's happening in your life. So that's how karma works. And as you go through life or the next life or even in hell, that karmic action has a timeline based off of how egregious those actions are. So that's kind of how the hell realm works. Now, moving up the ring of existence from hell comes the realm of the hungry ghosts. Now, the hungry ghost realm overlaps with the human realm. Now, this also is kind of a reciprocal crime or realm based off of how your previous life, but usually it has to do with certain attachments to earthly conditions or earthly wants or needs. So the term hungry ghost has very specific intentions behind it. They are constantly hungry. They are craving for more, particularly things that they are attached to in this world. So they are always hungry and always trying to eat, but are never, ever satisfied. And some of the Japanese images of hungry ghosts, they have a lot of times very small mouths and very large distended bellies. So this is one way of this is important. One way of kind of recognizing a hungry ghost is they have large distended bellies. They're very skinny, and they can never be fully satiated. And they're going around the realm of the human realm and are trying to eat whatever they can, but they're never fully satisfied. So they were able to use this idea to, in a certain way, explain various phenomena that exist within the world. So the reason why fruit decomposes, for instance, is because these hungry ghosts are slowly eating these things away. And the reason why water eventually evaporates is because these hungry ghosts are slowly trying to sip away and trying to get more, but they can never fully be satisfied. So attachment to earthly conditions allow for one to be reborn into this earth with a body of subtle matter, which is not really seen by humans. That's why you can't really see the decomposition at work. So this subtle matter makes them almost like a ghost-like material that cannot be seen by humans, but nevertheless they do exist, and this is their punishment for their attachments to this world. The next ring up is that of the animal realm. Now, the animal realm is considered to be not that bad, but still not as ideal as some of the other realms. So in this realm, one would undergo sufferings associated with the animal condition. These are things such as servitude, stupidity, and ignorance. And these are a result of actions that you may have in a previous life. So if you are holding on to that notion of ignorance, and you're attached to that level of ignorance, then you may be reborn into the animal realm. Now, some people might enjoy being in that level of ignorance, but it still has with it a certain sense of suffering and inability to reach nirvana from this state. In order to finally reach nirvana, one has to get to the point of the human realm. So this is the first sense desire realm where it is seen as more of a reward for good karma or wholesome karma. And it's at this point where one can actually reach enlightenment. So this is kind of like the nice spot, the golden spot for where you can actually achieve nirvana. Because one is not overwhelmed by the pains of the lower states, all the suffering that exists from the lower states, and then one is not maybe attached to the pleasures of the higher heavenly states. So this is that, again, that middle way, that middle ground where you can actually be in the right spot to gain full enlightenment. So this is where moral virtue and wisdom can be cultivated and eventually allow you to gain enlightenment. The highest of these sense realms is that of the realm of the lower gods. Now these lower gods are proud and fearsome celestial beings. They hold godlike powers, and some reign over celestial kingdoms, and most live in delightful happiness and splendor. But even though they have these powers, they still belong to the world of suffering, and therefore the realm of samsara. So they do have to come back and are reborn into other lives. So the powers blind them to the world of suffering and fill them with a sense of pride. And this pride gets in their way of eventually reaching nirvana, and also is a stumbling block for them to free themselves from pain and suffering. So even these divas grow old and they die. And because their pleasure is great, so too is their misery. So these lower gods are not completely in this amazing world. They still have a lot of suffering and whatnot to go through as well. Now, in these realms of the lower gods, there are 6 levels of existence. The first level is the Gandharvas. These are the celestial musicians. Moving up from there are the Yakshas. These are the good spirits. And then next to that are the Rakshasas, which are the evil spirits. Then you have the Nagas, which is like a serpent that can assume the human form. And then from that point, there's also the Garudas, which are the birds with human heads. And then eventually you get to the realm of Tusitas. These are the world protectors. And these are also the gods of the Vedic religion. So these are the Hindu gods. And it is believed that from this realm, where people are able to be reborn into the human Buddhas. So human Buddhas are pretty much coming from this realm of the Tusitas, this lower god realm. And they can come back into human form because, again, that's that nice zone to be in order to gain enlightenment, to become a Buddha. So it is from this area, the Tusita level, where then they can gain enough understanding to be then reborn into the human Buddhas. And it is believed that the next Buddha after Gautama will be Maitreya. who now resides in the Tusita heavenly realm. So, and then once Tusita is ready to come into the next realm of existence, then Maitreya will come and become the next Buddha. So moving on from the realms of senses or the realms of desires, we'll now move into the realms of form. Now, this realms of form are inhabited by higher gods, otherwise known as the Brahma deities. And in this heavenly realm, the deities have pure forms and lack the desires that characterize the gods in the realms of desire. So they're not really these envious gods or goddesses that are out there. These are ones that have gone beyond those levels. And there are 16 celestial levels of progressive calmness and purity. So the top 5 levels are indeed attainable by humans who have almost reached nirvana. And in those levels, one will be able to complete the path and achieve enlightenment. It's almost like a foregone conclusion that they will be able to achieve enlightenment if they're able to attain those levels. Now, the other 11 levels are related to the 4 meditations practiced by the Buddha. Now, these 4 meditations are pretty important because through these meditations, one's able to attune the consciousness or attune one's consciousness to more refined states, and in doing so it can help them then be reborn into those higher states of calmness and purity. So as you continue to meditate on focusing on improving those 4 attributes that we talked about earlier, then one can eventually gain a clear understanding of how to gain enlightenment. We ultimately come to what is known as the formless realms. And in this realm, one has really no desires, no shape or form, and only has a pure mental existence. In this realm, this formless realm, there are 4 formless realms which correspond to the 4 formless meditations. And these 4 formless realms are the highest levels of celestial birth that are possible, or celestial rebirth. And rebirth into any of the formless realms requires not only the meditative attainment, but also the moral achievement that goes along with it. So in order to do that, one has to focus on and try to master the 4 virtues. And the 4 virtues, as we discussed earlier, are kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. And it is believed that the high god Brahma is the one who reported to and came to the Buddha, came down from the heavens and tried to convince the Buddha to teach the Dharma. And the Buddha did not teach that one should worship these celestial deities, these ones who are kind of in these realms. And even in the earlier texts, they make mention to these higher gods or these higher realms. But he indicated that these texts indicate that the Buddha and the Sangha respected their karmic attainment, but they did not worship them. So it's important to recognize that these gods are not necessarily worshipped as such, but they are nevertheless respected as people who have, or those who have attained a certain karmic level, and in doing so, they have provided a way or a path to brings them closer to enlightenment. So they should be respected, but maybe not necessarily worshipped as such. All that I have discussed here in this lecture can be visually summed up in what is often depicted as the wheel of life, as you can see here. Now, if you break down this wheel, you can see that the outermost ring represents the 12 links that define the manner of causality, otherwise known as dependent arising. that result in beings wandering from one life to the next due to their karmic activity or their karmic actions. Now, the inside ring pictures the 6 sense realms. These are the lower gods, the asuras, the humans, animals, hungry ghosts, and the hell beings. So that's kind of depicting all those different sense realms. And then the next double segment are the 2 ways. The downward way to rebirth to the lower realms because of the 3 root evils, and the upward way to those who are on the way to the spiritual path. Now, monks following the path are pointed to the goal of enlightenment. This is depicted in the upper left-hand corner. And the Buddha, who's up in the upper right-hand corner, is pointing to the moon and the path to enlightenment. A lot of times the moon represents the path to enlightenment. So this goes back to an old saying that, you know, if you point up into the sky, the idea is not to focus on the finger, but what the finger is pointing at, the path to ultimate enlightenment. And so then, even at the very center of this wheel of life, you find the 3 root evils, which are greed, hate, and delusion, which are represented by the cock or the rooster, the snake, and then you have the pig. And these 3 root evils keep the wheel of life turning. It's that axle that keeps on rotating that wheel around and around and around. And the wheel itself is held in the grasp of the Lord of Death. It's that ominous figure that's creeping out around the outside of this wheel that keeps this cycle going.